is Ry Rivard with Politico.
Thank you. Two questions, if I may. The first, during the CFO's presentation, she talked about marine traffic being higher, and I think the slides weren't up, so I might have got a little lost there. She said that 3% of what was higher was attributable to the Baltimore accident. Can you just give me more color and walk me through those numbers so I understand them?
The actual numbers were it was 16% over the prior June. So that's an extraordinary increase. Part of that increase, which is the point the CFO was making, was when the Baltimore port got shut down by virtue of the bridge collapse. A lot of the cargo intended for Baltimore has gotten offloaded in New York. There still remains some of the Baltimore cargo which is being offloaded in New York. So when we talk about the 16% increase, just to be clear, part of that wasn't just growth, organic growth in terms of our port. It was the fact that there still is some cargo intended for Baltimore that's getting offloaded in New York.
And is that 3% of 16% or 3% of 100%?
That's Libby.
And the second question is, the union was talking about a strike and they wanted you to get involved. Can you just give a little bit of information about what the port thinks its role is in that labor dispute? Thank you.
Yeah, so this is a catering service. What the company does to a portion of the airlines, not all the airlines, in a contract between the catering service and the airline, provides food for flights. So we're talking about those employees. They're not Port Authority employees. They're the catering company's employees, and they're represented by a union. And they've gone through, they've been out of contract since 2017. They've gone through a lot of process because they're covered by the Railway Labor Act. And there is a lot of talk about a strike. But that question of whether they go on strike, what are the issues, how close are they being resolved, is a matter between the catering company and the employees. Port Authority has encouraged all sides to try to reach an agreement. We hope they'll reach an agreement. We've been in touch with the airlines. The airlines say they have contingency plans, but the dispute is between the catering company and the airlines who are their customers.
Tom?
Next question is Mike Angel with the Journal of Commerce.
Thanks. This is in regard to the Berth 1012 restoration, and maybe it might be better suited to Beth, but can you speak about...
Well, you're exactly right in your instincts, because we're going to call Beth up to answer the question.
All right. The question is, how much more land does it open up for container ship operations at the Port Newark container terminal? How soon will their berth be ready? Does it need a ship crane and all that?
I think that's about 6 questions.
Okay.
So what needs to happen in order for us to allow for the expansion of the container terminal in Port Newark North, we need to be able to consolidate all of the bulk cargo operations first. Rebuilding this berth is like step 4 in that process. There are other tenants that are in that expansion area that need to be relocated as their leases come due. And then we will systematically make that space available to the current container terminal operator for further expansion. Overall, their expansion area, again, is in phases, so I can't speak to how much the total expansion area will be, but they are already beginning to move into that space, and they're tearing down, buildings that date back, to the 50s and 60s in order to make room for what will be new container terminal space and new on-dock rail facilities.
Okay. And the berth is going to be ready for container ships, or that berth needs to be rehabilitated?
No, the berth will have to be rehabilitated for the handling of container ships, and it would need ship-to-shore cranes. It would need to be deepened in order to do that. But if you look at the corner of berth 33 and 36 right now, 36 and 63 right now, this expansion area would allow the full length of Port Newark Channel to be made available for containers, whereas right now it's about 70% of it.
And a 1,000-foot berth.
At least 1,000 linear feet per vessel per berth, yes. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Becca.
And two virtual questions. First is Colleen Wilson with the record. Colleen?
Hi, thank you. So as far as the Port Authority bus terminal construction, this is the first construction contract to be authorized. Can you kind of speak more to the timeline of when we might see other phases of construction and contracts? Kind of what's the cadence there for the project?
Colleen, this is Rick. I'll give you a big picture answer to your question. If you have further detail, we'll ask Steve Plate to address them. So the big picture here is the construction that was authorized today has to do with what we call the deck overs. So it's not a building, it is covering over the Dyer Avenue cut, and what we've awarded, the board has approved the award of the construction contract for the deck overs and the construction management contract. There is in the background here 2 government approval processes. In order for construction to start on the deck overs, requires the federal NEPA review to be completed and the second local city ULURP approval process to reach a stage. Doesn't have to get all the way to the conclusion, but it needs to have, as part of that process, the state environmental approval also be issued. So construction contract's been awarded on the deck overs. We are hopeful that we will get through those 2 approval processes in a way that construction can start either late in the 4th quarter of this year or in the 1st quarter of next year. Our procurement process for the construction contract on phase 1 is underway, and we're hopeful that it will complete and have a construction contract awarded at the end of the 1st quarter of next year, at the end of the 1st quarter or the beginning of the 2nd quarter.
Okay, thank you. And then as far as PATH, curious if you can enlighten us on how PATH has, or if PATH has seen ridership increases given the issues with New Jersey Transit and Amtrak, and what, if any, changes, accommodations, additional rail service is being done to manage that.
Well, Colleen, I'd answer the question this way, which is that New Jersey Transit and PATH, in fact, all the commuter lines, have a tradition which is well established, well coordinated in terms of cross-honoring in the event of service problems on any individual line. And that's currently in place. I'm not aware, I'm not sure we have anybody from PATH here, but we can get you the information that that system of cross-honoring, which as soon as there's a problem in terms of New Jersey Transit or other transit interruption, that's in place. It's working well. I certainly haven't had any reports that there are problems, but obviously significant inconvenience gets inflicted on travelers who are planning to use a particular line, but where service is interrupted. And if you want a more precise answer, we'll get in touch with the communications office, and they'll get you a more precise answer from PATH.
Hey, Colleen, Steve Plate's going to jump in for 120 seconds just to give you a little more of a drill down.
Okay, relative to your question, we anticipate, as Rick said, beginning construction of the deck overs late this year, early next year. While that's all underway, we already began, and we're well into preparing for the phase 1. We have there's an active procurement underway led by Lillian Valenti. That involves we've selecting and narrowing down qualified contractors, as well as preparation of drawings to be utilized for the contractor to bid. We've had an intensive outreach effort to make sure that the contractors are comfortable in their world, as well as looking at commuters and the community to make sure that what we do is supports their efforts. So we've had tremendous communication, unprecedented, and got tremendous positive feedback. In fact, last night they voted, thanks to Hirsch and Glenn Guzzi, voted in support of the project, and it's now moving to the borough president. So, and then once that is completed, which is the ramps and the phase one, which is the ramps and the storage staging facility, which will act as an interim facility, then we'll go and replace and remove entirely the main terminal. So we have a plan, we're activated, we're implementing, and it's a very intense effort that we're all rising to the occasion to accomplish. Thank you.
Thanks.
And final question is Larry Higgs with New Jersey Advanced Media. Larry.
Thanks. And actually, I'm going to continue questions on two issues that have been brought up. For the traveling public, could you describe what a deck over is and how it will be converted to allow its use as a temporary bus terminal?
Steve, sounds technical to me.
Okay, so Larry, the deck over is basically taking, if you go down Dyer Avenue, get into the Lincoln Tunnel, you descend, correct? You follow that, right? So if you visualize building a deck on top of that. So basically for the community, they see it as reknitting the community. From our perspective, and they've accepted this and very supportive of this, while we're building all these facilities, we need to have places for TB&T to provide bus service. And what we're doing is using that space. It's approximately 3.5 acres, that space, to provide for pickup and drop-offs as well as storage and staging for bus services. So that will be a structure that will connect and ultimately be converted to a green space for the community, which they're very excited about once the project is fully completed. There was a second question? Or did I answer it?
Yes, there is. Second question is regarding PATH. There was a gentleman from Jersey City who spoke about the need for more robust service. He mentioned the 20-minute headway during the day, which I've experienced myself, and the long wait between trains overnight. So, how doable is that request to get more service out there on the street?
What I would say to you, Larry, is we are well aware of the requests that have been made for additional service, particularly evenings, overnight, and on the weekends. And we're taking a hard look at it. As you know, there is a tremendous amount of infrastructure work currently underway at PATH, and we're looking at whether, given all the work that's going on in terms of being able to handle extra trains. But we're aware of it. We recognize the need to respond as much as we can. Just don't have an exact answer as to what will be determined as viable.
Great, thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
That concludes the Q&A. Thank you, everyone.
Very much. Appreciate it. See everybody in September.